Hi, this is Kathy with Rocks, Fossils, and Minerals Oh My, and today I'm going to do more about fossils. I had someone that subscribed and they would like to see more fossils, so here we go. These, of course, none of these I found, but I bought them, and I don't know if I'll get around to showing every one of them, but we will start. Of course, we have ammonites. This one has been cut and polished, but it does or did have some, there it is, some iridescence. You see the red and the green right there in the corner. If I can catch that again, you can see a little bit of it right there. And then when you open it, that's what you get. It's beautiful. It's got chambers, just like a nautilus shell, and it's the how it grows. And I don't know how well you can see the very middle, but starts and it grows, and each chamber grows, and they actually, as far as they understand, use these chambers to propel themselves through the water. And here's a little bit of druzy inside, you can see. It's part of the petrifying. You can see all the little lines in the chambers. It's really interesting, there's a lot of calcite in there. It's a beautiful fossil. Here's the other half. It's fossilized too. And at the end it looks like rock, which probably was, if you see that. Maybe that was the end of the fossil there, and that's just the shell it was found in. Some more druzy. And look at the patterns. Apparently they can tell the different kinds of ammonites by their patterns. And there's some more of that iridescence. There's some purple there if you can see it behind all my fingerprints in the corner there. And there's some red. Lots of red there. Go back to regular mode. Put these two together. But people that have them cut them in half and polish them, and they turn out very beautifully like that. Here's a whole one that hasn't been cut. You see the end. And I think these lines here, if I remember correctly, are called sutures. And they have different patterns and different names for those patterns. There's a little bit of iridescence in that one in the middle. But I like this one and I bought it for that reason right there. You can see inside of that cavity, you see a little bit of druzy, which is a sparkly quartz in there. And you can see the shadow behind the shell. That is so cool. Here's the other side of it. It's got a little bit of iridescence right there too. It's just a beautiful, beautiful shell. Here's another that looks like it's got a lot of the material where it was found inside there. But the iridescence on this one is beautiful. It's like a white with more iridescence on it. See all the greens and the oranges? See some of those suture marks there. You open this one up. And that one's quite pretty. Totally different pattern. And there's that one. Then I have some sand dollars. These look very much like today's sand dollars. I tried to find an example. I do have them, but there's the back of it. Looks almost like modern day, just perfect. And there's usually a hole in them like that. Shake them, maybe you could hear. And modern day sand dollars. This one, the way it was formed, is a little different, the way that little hump on the top formed. These are from California. This one is. This one is from Texas, and it looks like modern day shell too, or sand dollar. Oh, the back of it just looks like where it was found. But the front is beautiful. Look at the pattern. Just like one you might find at the beach. See the little patterns all along there. And then I have a real big one. Big sand dollar fossil. They're all really intricate and all have the same type of like modern day patterns on them. They're just beautiful. That's the back of them where they cut it off the rock. Now these ammonites I'm going to have to do close up because they're pyritized ammonite. Pyrite was in the mix there, and then this one was fossilizing. It fossilized and pyritized. These are from France. Look at the end there. Perfect little end, just like the big ones. That's amazing. I didn't notice that till I had it under magnification just there on my phone. And here's some tinier ones, but they still have a lot of detail. There's little ammonites that have been pyritized. And they all look kind of different because they're all little different species. But you can see the patterns on them. And here's a little iridescent ammonite. Look at that pretty iridescence on it. And it's from Madagascar, as you can see. It's beautiful. And here's a piece, just a piece, of the outside of the shell, the iridescent part that someone has cut, and you can actually see some of it through the other side. But somebody's cut it, and then they put a lacquer or resin on top of it to keep it shining, because when they get dry they don't shine like that, and that's like something you would use in jewelry, which is actually what this is for. And here is a clam. May not be able to see it right away, but then you can see the front of it. That's the inside, and you can see some different patterns in there. Look at that. Different patterns and features from, oh look, there's a little shell right in the middle. I never noticed that till I had it under the magnification. Look at that. That is so unique. Some things you don't see until you have them under magnification if you own fossils. Excuse me. And there's a little view of it on the inside. here's another type of little fossil they find. Look at that. Fossil, so pretty. Little shell. And this one is a bit different. It is fossilized clam also, but it's totally made of calcite. So it fossilized. You can see the front here where the bottom may be under there somewhere. And then the top part totally calcified. And I think there's another little piece right there of another little one. Looks like it might be sticking up in there. So interesting. And look, there's another. You just look at these things. They're neat to look at under the... We all have phones pretty much now. We can do that. Don't have to have microscopes. Although I do have one. I have to find an adapter for my phone. And I can use it. In the future, I might show some of these things under the microscope. Here's another calcified clam. So they're kind of a gemstone and a fossil. You can see with a dogtooth calcite. These are from Ruck's Pit, place in Florida, about 8 hours away. That I don't even think it's open anymore, but they used to be able to go in and find things like this. Fossilized and calcified clam. Excuse me. And those last two, the clam and the one in front of me, they do glow under fluorescent light. And if I can ever figure out how to get that on camera real well, I'll show some things that are fluorescent, which I truly love. Here's another little example of an ammonite that's been fossilized and has iridescence on the outside. Ooh, look at that rainbow. And there it is on the inside too. And people cut them open and polish them so they're prettier to display. Then we have things like this. What in the world? It is actually petrified bamboo, believe that or not. That's what it is. You can see it was once living. There's a lot of like iron type deposits on the bottom. It's really pretty. And it's a fossil. Then, some of them fossilize like this. Just pieces of them in the rock. You try to open up the rock and sometimes it doesn't go as well and you get the imprint. They're pretty too, to me. And something my grandson really loves, shark's teeth. That kid watches Shark Week every time. He loves watching sharks on TV, and he has stuffed animals that are sharks, and he plays video games with sharks. And this is a megalodon tooth. It's not as big as a lot of them I've seen, but it's pretty big. And see the other side. And on the edges, you can see the little Sharpie pieces there. Serrated edges. Like it needed any help as big as it must have been. But that's a megalodon tooth. This was from Carolina, off the coast. This one, I really don't know where it's from. I mean, I know it's a megalodon tooth, but I don't know its origin. I know where I bought it, but the owner did not know where it originated from. There's no serrations on it. It's just a pretty, pretty example. I love the color of it. It's just a lighter color tooth. And it doesn't have the same striations on the side like the megalodon does, so it might not be megalodon. And But I know it's a shark's tooth and I know it's petrified, so it's a fossil. There's that bad boy. I just love its color. It's very unique to me. I finally got some better light so we can see everything. Yay, let there be light. And then we get to something I'm not too crazy about, but I have them. I like them. But it's not my passion to collect these. Excuse my fingernails. That was terrible. I got some dirt under my fingernails just from picking up some of those fossils. Anyway, this is a trilobite. It's a little baby trilobite trying to curl up. A trilobite, look at that. He tucked his little head down. You can see him underneath. How unique is that? Beautiful little baby trilobite. And there, he's just about as big as the tip of my finger. And then my daughter bought me this one. It's a trilobite also. It's not huge, but it's pretty interesting. It's on shale. It was very thoughtful of her to recognize something and buy it for me. I think that may be a little piece of a trilobite there too. Like I said, under magnification. I didn't even look at it under magnification. There's that one. These were under the sea little creatures, and they're found all over in every continent, from what I understand, what I've read. Here's one of my favorite pieces. Looks like just a flat out rock, doesn't it? Just normal rock. I call it my puzzle rock because you take it off and you got Mr. Trilobite hiding in there. His little face, he's trying to curl up in there. And then there's the imprint of it in the stone. It's like a sandstone kind of. So interesting how they find these things. Somebody cracked that rock open and found that little guy in there. Then I have dinosaur bone. You see those cells? They call them cells. If you looked at a bone, you'd see our marrow, and that's pretty much the cell structures where the marrow was, but as it petrified, other minerals came in. You can see teeny. There's a lot of cells, but then people make jewelry out of petrified dinosaur bone. Here's what it looks like without being polished on that side. Just broken. Just imagine looking around and finding that. I wouldn't know that was a dinosaur bone. It's very interesting to me. And there's a big chunk of dinosaur bone. Just imagine how big around that had to be. That's like a very small portion of it. And then here's what a bigger piece looks like. Kind of polished. Give us flatter, smoother surface than the other one had. Look at that. It's agatized. The blue agate in there. And there's red and orange, yellow. All those little cells got filled in with all sorts of different minerals. Agate. Look at the top there, isn't that neat? It's like the outside of the bone. So that's just the marrow in the middle. Imagine how big that piece or that dinosaur must have been. Here's the other side of it. They've put some kind of treatment on the outside of it there. Kind of looks like a tree. If I found that in the dirt, I'd think it was petrified wood. Isn't that pretty, those oranges? And then a friend of mine gave me this. Thank you, Will. And this is dinosaur bone. It's just been polished. That's it. And you can see all the little cells are filled in, different minerals. Kind of gives it more of a three-dimensional look. And there's the other side of it. But you can see a little hole drilled on the top, and it's meant for a pendant. But I like specimens, so I keep it free, and I can look at it whenever I want. Then there's plants. And I have more specimens of plants, but I'm just bringing a couple out now. There's plant fossil. It's had a little lacquer put on it, but other than that, nothing else. And crack the thin pieces of rock, and in between are these. These are dendrites. There's some kind of plant that got fossilized, but when you find them in gems and minerals, you call them dendrites. It's so pretty. I love it. Little plants. And this, let me zoom out. This is a fern plate. And I think it's slate, but the way they've been pressed in between the rock and then exposed, then you see, for some reason, it made the rock white with the imprint of the fern. You can see the side. Let me zoom in a little for this. See the side. And here's the back. It's deeply pressed between some other rocks. This is kind of like the negative side. And it's funny, through the camera I can see a lot of the white, but my eyes don't get a lot of the white. It just gets the darker spots. But through the lens of the camera, it sees all. Beautiful. And if you've ever seen fern, that's what it looks like millions of years ago, I guess, too. And it's been squished between plates and quote-unquote preserved, fossilized. You don't say preserved, you say fossilized. Let me move these out of the way to get my big boy out. I don't want to squish anything else in case I drop it, which I am kind of clumsy, so that could happen. Now, this was a gift. This was given to me by an elderly gentleman, very awesome man, that I worked with at one point. He knew I liked rocks and fossils, and we shared some stories, and he told me about working in the coal mines, and I believe it was in Tennessee. And you can see that looks totally like coal. But he said that underneath, when they would be digging in the mine, above them, this is heavy if I sound funny. It's a weird angle to hold this. And this is the bottom of it. Above them, these big pieces like this, they could see them. Imagine being deep under the ground in a coal mine, hoping those things don't fall on your head. And he said that over time his sons used it for a target practice. I don't know with what, but so the top of it came off a little bit, but you can see some kind of tree. I think it looks palm, but I don't know, because the only fossilized parts are just the outside of it and the shape of it looked like a stump. But it's beautiful, and it was a beautiful gift, and you can see shiny little specks on it. but I loved it. He just came, I think, the day that he wasn't working there anymore. He came up to me and told me he had something for me, and he gave me that. It was a very beautiful gift because I love fossils. See, all the little dirt there, I just killed part of that. After millions of years, it survived. Gets to my house, nope. That's how it works with me. And then, one more little piece. Look at this little guy. This is opalized, believe it or not. Doesn't have all the iridescence, the colors in the opal, but and the more I'm going, but you can see you can see through it. Let's get my other light out. You can see it's clear. You can see through it. That's the opalization there. It's a pretty little piece. A little shell. What's left of it. But it was opalized. Didn't get the pretty colors of the opal. If it did, it'd probably be in a museum somewhere. There's my little fossilized shell. And I think that's about it for now. It's been 26 minutes. I didn't realize it was going that long. I just start talking about them and keep going. But anyway, thank you for joining Rocks, Fossils, and Minerals Oh My. See you next time.